little itty bitty spider that Jennifer was so friendly to actually found its way back to her leg and bit her. That's because she was being fresh at the beginning of the show.
She's okay though.
So where in the heck were we on this show?
Alright. The following are some more of Edgar Casey's most astute predictions about science and technology. Will you get that phone off the table? Thank you.
I was
discovered the existence of the long economic cycle.
CIO.com on our web. I just want to tell everybody real quickly, you can find out a lot of everything that we do here and on the radio is all on the web. And I got it also on my cell phone, so I'm all done. I'm done. I'm done.
Are you going to read?
Are you going to give me a test? Oh, read.
No, read.
Okay. Discover the existence of long economic cycles. You didn't read this, right?
I read that one.
Oh. Did you?
Yes, I did, while you were playing around. With your phone.
Casey described a long economic cycle of 24 to 25 years, which predicts depression and major recessions. Starting with the base year of 1907, every 24th or 25th year precisely describes an economic downturn. Based on Casey's definition, the next major depression is forecasted for the year of 2006 or 2007. Now let me tell you something about 2007.
Finish the last sentence.
Before we go on any further, I worked in the construction industry. It was the housing market and the construction industry in the summer of 2007 that started all of what we are still dealing with in February 2009. With this
and exactly like I said with the last sentence.
They will go back and find out that the Great Depression started in 2007.
Says
and
right
we
here,
are surviving it now.
The cycle does not describe all of the downturns, but it definitely describes the worst downturns.
And this is one of the worst downturns. Foresaw a shift of the Earth's poles around the millennium.
In the late 1920s and early 1930s, Casey was the first to describe the concept of the shifting of the pole as a result of the crust of the Earth moving independently.
That's when you were born.
Thank you.
Between the
I'm
20s
very
and
well
the
preserved.
30s. Oh.
From the core of the Earth to bring different a surface area over the spin axis. During the past 30 years, this concept has received more and more attention by geophysicists, some of whom now seriously argue that the crust does move independently. Some geophysicists now also argue that the best way to explain a variety of paleo, sea level, and other data is that it moves and shifts fairly frequently and more rapidly than previously imagined.
Casey predicted changes to the Earth's surface to begin sometime between the years 1958 and 1998. The cause of these dramatic changes will be the shift of the world's magnetic poles around the year 2000. Casey predicted that when this pole shift occurs, it would begin reversals in the world's climate so that...
Casey's prediction of a pole shift occurred in 1998, according to NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. In 1998, something changed the Earth's gravitational field, which moved the magnetic poles closer together. The NASA article explained that the ice on the poles melted, ocean currents moved water towards the equator, which factors researchers believe to be partly responsible, in conjunction with the shifts in atmospheric patterns, for this ongoing shift in the Earth's magnetic field. The NASA finding affirms Casey's prediction of a pole shift.
Casey foresaw the rise in the aviation and radio, or the rise of the aviation and the radio industry. In May 1930, despite the deepening depression, Casey predicted the industry which would become the next U.S. focus of industrial activity. Those of the aerial nature, that is, radio and its associations. Aerial and its associations. At the time, both the radio and aviation industries were still widely regarded as commercially unproven toys.
Foresaw the new communications technologies. Casey foresaw the exceptional changes and improvements would come in the communication and broadcasting industries. He pointed years in advance to the coming of TV, fax, telex, expanded shock ticker tape services, and microwave transmission on land to replace copper wire.
Edgar Casey foresaw the great influence of aviation on the world. During the 1930s, Casey told his clients to get out of the rails and to get into the air. In February 1933, he named the most outstanding change that would come: airplane manufacturers and transportation industry. In November 1942, Casey predicted that air transportation would become more and more the basics of all relationship with other nations, countries, as well as the internal or national activity. By 1944, he predicted that any town that has any name will eventually be on an airline, and when they're off it, it's as bad as being off the railroad, in another 10 or 20 years.
Foresaw the development of infrared vision or night vision. Casey was probably the first human being to describe the concept of infrared vision. Infrared night vision is now one of the mainstays of U.S. military superiority.
Edgar Casey foresaw the union of the radio and the telegraph industry. Casey foresaw the rapid integration and expansion of the communication industry, which would be driven by the new technology. In October 1935, he predicted that by 1939 should be fact, that is, the united activity of radio and telegraph lines.
AT&T?
By the end of the 1930s, the ITU had created the technical standards which allowed all forms of communication to interoperate. In November 1942, he added,
Discovered an investment strategy that proved to be successful. Yes, AT&T used to stand for American Telephone and Telegraph, which has now been extinct and absorbed.
In March 1936, Casey advised investing in allied industries that deal with preparation of war materials for the next few months, but the
Industrials.
I couldn't get that word out, having to do with communications of all natures for long term.
Discovered a consumer product strategy that proved to be successful. In September 1942, Casey advised investing in any electrical appliances, all forms of home appliances, those of greater conveniences. All of these will offer greater investment now and for the future. For the next few years at least, these consumer products drove the economy for a long time, and companies which manufactured them became huge. It is still true today in the form of computers and digital electronics. In March 1944, Casey again predicted post-war economic leadership for technology in all of the industrial products, including radio, icebox, automobile, and lights. He predicted at the same time that TV would become an important consumer product before the TV broadcasting industry had ever been conceived.
Can you envision any future technologies that haven't been invented yet?
Smart car.
Oh yeah,
Smart car.
There'll be teleportation. There will be
Hovercraft.
cars that hover.
You honestly believe that they're going to be able to dematerialize?
Beam me up, Scotty.
your
They already
matter
can.
and rematerialize.
They already can. They just haven't done it with a whole human. They've done it with atoms. They've done it with.
Well, back then, I highly doubt that they actually thought that people could go flying in the sky to go great distances or over oceans.
Beam me up, Scotty. Yes, the planet is
What
round.
about I am regularly communicating with people from around the world right from my home office?
Well, you still think the world's
Instantly.
flat.
Yeah. Your head's flat too.
No, it's got corners. Foresaw the day of his own death.
The last vision of the future Casey received concerned himself. His vision would often warn him that he should not use his powers more than twice a day, or serious health problems would occur. But because Casey would receive thousands of requests for help, he would ignore these warnings and help them anyway. Many letters were from mothers who were worried about their sons fighting in World War II. Casey's final vision warned him that the time had come for him to stop working and rest. But on January